Hi, I'm Dan McTeague with TGPT Television, here to give you this week's prediction as to where gas prices can be expected to go from Thursday, July the 25th, all the way to Wednesday, the last day of July the 31st. Well, it's been a very busy week on the gas front. Simply put, a couple of big events have been happening in North America. Mostly we'll begin with the courts. The Competition Tribunal made a decision not to respond to the premium charges that are levied against retailers and merchants. This has enormous and significant negative impacts for independent gas retailers who are forced to pay as much as 4 cents a litre. Now, while many people believe those are simply passed on to consumers, in the case of gas, they're not. They're absorbed, and often that means the death knell for even more gas independents, especially those outside of large geographic and large urban areas. The second will happen in the United States as the U.S. Congress looks at the feasibility and the prospect of more banks becoming involved in those owning physical commodities. It's a very dangerous precedent. We learned from our great-grandparents in the 1930s after the Depression then that it's not always a wise idea to have banks who lend money or who take investors' deposits to then be putting it physically in areas where there is a great deal of hedging that goes on and obviously can distort prices, but more importantly, can also present real risks. Gasoline prices have gone up anywhere from 8 to 12 cents a litre, depending on where you are in the country, and a lot of that is speculation. We don't just call it speculation, we call it excessive speculation. Well, so let's start in the Maritimes. They saw a big increase last week of some 5 to 6 cents a litre, as predicted here last Monday. Many of those regions, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and of course New Brunswick, are now seeing prices in and above $1.40. The good news is that those prices will come down by as much as 2.5, almost 3 cents a litre, depending on where you are. So that's something to look forward to as we head to Thursday and Friday, the 25th and 26th of July. So that's the good news for the Maritimes. Things are going to start to come down, although not nearly as much as what we've seen in terms of increases. For Quebec, look prices to remain relatively stable over the for the forecast for the week. Prices are between $1.38 and $1.44 in Quebec City, $1.38 in Montreal. Of course, that could restore by Monday, the 29th or the 30th, which is Tuesday, back to the 146 to 148 range. In Toronto, prices will continuously go down by bits and drabs. We're going to see a 0.7 cent decrease at the pumps, going from $1.33.6, or I should say 0.6 cent a litre drop, down to $1.33 even, and look for those small incremental decreases over the next few days. Ottawa, of course, has an interesting market because on the weekends, as we see in London and Windsor and many small communities like Niagara Falls outside of Toronto, over the weekends, prices drop by as much as 5 and 6 cents a litre. And as we've said here in the past, that 5 or 6 cents a litre represents only the retail margin. So on the weekend, the retailers are getting squeezed, usually by big box resellers or by the suppliers themselves. It's not a very good situation because it leads to even more concentration as independent gas retailers may find themselves squeezed out of existence. As for Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, again, prices are going to remain relatively stable, although you could see them go down a penny or two here right up until the 31st of July. We, of course, have in British Columbia, prices have been very high, up in the 152 range last week. They've now come back down to $1.47 in Vancouver and the Metro Vancouver area. That could continue these 1 and 2 cent litre declines, except on the weekends where you see even more, but then it's restored on Tuesday back to the $1.42 to $1.46 range. Victoria, obviously a closed market, $1.41.9. Even though the wholesale prices have dropped, Victoria continues to pay the same price they've been paying for about 2.5, 3 weeks now. It's $1.41.9. There's going to be obviously some decrease at some point down the road. In the BC interior, they continue to pay pretty low prices because they get most of their gasoline pipelined over the mountains from Edmonton itself. So there's some good news on the horizon. Now, the final thing we wanted to point out is currency. The Canadian currency is now strengthening. And unlike a couple of weeks ago when it weakened by 4 and 5%, which meant because we price all of our commodities in U.S. Terms, we were actually paying a little bit more for gasoline. Well, now the reverse is true. And as long as the Canadian dollar continues to strengthen, look for more decreases at the pumps as we go into the last and final week of July. All said and done, it means that prices will be nowhere near what some or one had predicted in the Toronto area of $1.18 to $1.21 anytime soon. We'll continue to post and remind you of how these prices are going. Do tune in. And of course, check the site daily because there are fluctuations that take place. We're in over 200 cities across Canada. We are by far and large and away the biggest gas site in Canada. Yes, we are much bigger than Gas Buddy, and there's good reason for that. Simply put, there's more value in gas prices going up and down than there is trying to drive 100 kilometers to save 1/10 of a cent. So that's it for this week. I'm Dan McTeague from TGPT Television. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And please continue looking on our site. More importantly, if you have any questions, do check it out in the forum. I'll try to respond to them.